All right, I think we can safely get started here. So, first off, I want to thank you all for joining me on a Saturday morning for another in the series of Halter Technical events and webinars. Previously, we have done one on an introduction to reality TV and becoming an audio supervisor for reality TV. We just had the Hollywood Sound Expo last month. Coming up next after this one, next month, we will have another financial seminar with our friend, financial consultant, Sam Strum, who is helping to get sound pros up to speed on finances. He'll go over the basics of how to generate wealth and manage risk, especially for those of us that are freelancers. So if you would like to get a better handle on your own finances and learn ways to improve it and work with Sam, I highly recommend that seminar. We've done it in the past. Response was fantastic. There's going to be 2 chances. I believe it's a Wednesday and a Saturday or Sunday. I can't remember the dates offhand, but you'll have 2 chances to sign up for that and be able to talk with Sam, which is great. And we also have in September, there will be the follow-up to the reality TV webinar where we will go more in depth on what an audio supervisor does and their responsibilities and the gear they use. So we've got a lot of good things coming up, all leading up to NAB in October in Las Vegas, which is going to be a lot of fun. But the reason you're here, this webinar, the future of production sound. First of all, I want to thank John Tatulis of Sound Devices, Glenn Sanders of Zaxcom, and Gordon Moore of Lectrosonics, all who were kind enough to sit down with me and talk about what they thought the future of production sound is and how they thought gear was going to go. And their input is just invaluable. Where I have a lot of my own ideas, they also have been in the game a lot longer than me and have their own philosophies and concepts. And you'll see some of the things that they touch on. I won't go into specifics on products or on their products or upcoming things or anything like that. So no secrets. Sorry, everybody. But we will get into a lot of the theories of stuff. I think this is a fun one. I think it's kind of crazy. There's going to be some outlandish things that you're going to laugh at me about. There's going to be some things that you go, yeah, that's spot on, Doc, obviously. So we're just going to have fun with it. I'm going to try and move fast so we can get through it all pretty quickly and we can all talk about it at the end. If you have questions along the way, feel free to type them in the chat. I'll answer them as I go and we'll take it from there. Cool? All right. So for those who don't know me, my name is Doc Justice. I am the owner of Halter Technical. I have been working as a production sound mixer since 2004, mostly in the reality competition space, unscripted work. As an audio supervisor, I specialized in competition shows, cooking shows, basically large house installations, large scale multi-crew stuff. So that's kind of how Halter Technical was started, in picking out all of the gear that we were using and saying, well, some things need to be improved. I went with headphones. There's lots of things that need to be improved. You've all been working in sound in some capacity for a while, and you know the history of it. And from one perspective, it looks like things didn't change in sound for a long time, right? We had, for many decades, we had one or a couple of booms going to a mono or a stereo recorder, and that was basically it for a while. Now, you could view it that way, but you could also look at all of the advancements that happened along that way, and going from off-site recorders to on-site mono recorders to stereo to multi-channel, all of the advancements that happened with microphones themselves, where a microphone was static and the actors had to congregate around it in the first talkies, and then to moving booms and to fishers and dollies and other booms from overhead. And we've had lots of advancements. And then when wireless hit, things exploded. And advancements in technology just happened at a lot more rapid pace. And then we went from recording to magnetic tape all the way up to solid state media and file-based systems. So a lot has happened. And I say all that because obviously a lot is going to happen. If you look at what the job was of a sound mixer in movies or television 30 years ago, it looked a lot different than it does today. And there will be changes that will make it look a lot different in the next 30 years. So we're going to talk about some of the things that we have to look forward to, how our jobs are going to change and how the gear is going to change. And we're going to have some fun with it. What's cool for me is I like to get creative and think of the technologies that are being pushed right now, the advancements that are happening right now, and how they're going to help us. And I think we can all have some fun with this. So we're going to take all of the tools that we use, we're going to go through them, and we're going to totally flip them on their heads. So let's reinvent some shit, all right? So let's get this out of the way first, okay? Cameras. Cameras are going to change. Cameras have been changing rapidly. No longer are we sticking with one film camera and using it for a decade. We are now, productions are upgrading cameras seemingly every year, if not more so. And there's all kinds of shifts happening within the camera itself for picture. We're going to stick to what matters to us, how audio is delivered through camera and how things are, how camera will deliver their files. So I'm just going to touch on some of the points really quickly, things that are going to change, including that typo that says intelligent. In the future, there won't be typos. Anyway, cameras are going to change. They're going to be able to do a lot more with audio as they progress. So right now, we've seen cameras go from analog inputs to having AES inputs to being able to track 4 channels, but there's no reason they can't do more than that. They can't have Dante built in or other whatever standards new multi-channel standards are. We know that camera delivery is going to change. We've seen Frame.io get the party started with cloud-based instant delivery, and that is by no means the end all. That's just the beginning. Some people say that the idea of a physical exchange of media is going to go away this decade. Just go away. That's this decade, where delivery will be instant. We've seen with COVID, the idea of broadcasting where executives and other creatives don't even have to be on set anymore, and they're watching live instant feeds of what's happening. Well, there'll be more of that, and there'll be more control offsite as well. So look for a lot more remote control capability, machine learning, AI processing, and cameras are just going to go crazy. And there's really no telling for us how it's going to affect us now, except that we all know that we're no longer recording only in camera, and we've been double system for a long time. And now our jobs are going to further be more reliant on us and then the camera doing our recording. So mixers and recorders. Anybody who follows me on social media might have seen a rendering of a mixer that I built or I designed. I did not build. I just designed, made a mock-up of about 5 years ago. I threw it up online just to say, hey, guys, hey, manufacturers, here's some ideas, steal it from me. That's kind of the idea here too. Our mixer recorders have evolved greatly, particularly in recent years, and moving towards solid state media, multi-track ISOs, and just processing power in general has absolutely skyrocketed. And what can we look forward to with the mixers, the portable mixers that we use? Well, I put a question mark next to size because that is kind of up for debate philosophically. Some companies are moving towards an all-in-one compact mixer recorder with everything built in as much as possible. Now, that has its obvious pros, its obvious benefits, weight, power consumption. All of this is very helpful. There's trade-offs in it with physical knobs and faders and such. There's always going to be physical trade-offs. So no matter which company is going to make the next mixer recorder, they're going to use their expertise and their own philosophies to determine the trade-offs, which trade-offs are beneficial. Now, we know that we now have the ability to record multi-tracks in just a small box. But these boxes are only just starting to get some of the console features that we have, right? The ability to have multiple buses and the ability to have EQs built in and plugins and all of these things that we've had in desktop consoles, particularly in the live audio world for a long time, are just now trickling down. Now, that will improve as processors improve and power consumption improves. So we will see those features continue to evolve and improve on our little boxes too. We talked about cloud delivery for cameras. It's again, we're just at the beginning of it happening for mixer recorders. We have not just Frame.io, but Viviana has their own implementation now, and there are others coming. This cloud delivery is going to be instant and easily accessible and manageable. And we will see what happens with physical media for us in the future. We'll always have the need to record locally, if not for anything but a backup, but that kind of instant delivery seems to be on the horizon in the near term. Now, when it comes to AI processing and machine learning, there's been great waves made in the post world. And the only thing that limits these enhancements for us is latency, right? We need to have things instant. We don't have an undo button on our recorders. So any processing that's done, whether it is filters or EQs or intelligent management of the ISO tracks, all of this needs to happen instantly. We can't have any sort of delay. Now, right now, we record all of the ISO tracks separately and we record a mix track separately. But what if that wasn't necessary? What if recording one single track and being able to extract ISO tracks was able to be done in recorder, meaning having a microphone up and having the mix tracks be able to pinpoint sources? We can start to do that now. We're at the very infancy of that now in post-production, and being able to pinpoint those sources is probably further down the road because we are, of course, limited by the processors we have now, but those things are likely to come within the next couple of decades anyway. Moving on. Yeah, boom pole. Even a boom pole can be reinvented, right? Boom poles have been improved upon a lot. We have improved in materials. We've gone from aluminum to carbon fiber. We've improved locking mechanisms. We've improved a lot of it. But there's also like a way to totally reinvent these, because we have had a shift in the use of our boom poles. Now, I don't know if we're going to end up with laser swords like this. That just kind of looks cool. But what we do with boom poles has changed really in the past 5-8 years, as we've started going from, well, we were using obviously cabled booms and the shift to wireless booms, but the wireless booms started with us with a wireless transmitter on our belt and maybe a mixer or some sort of go-between between the boom and the transmitter. And then we started putting the transmitter directly on the bottom of the pole. And in recent years, we've now moved that transmitter up to the top of the pole and using a cableless pole now, as transmitters have gotten smaller and more power efficient. So we have shifted where that wireless leap happens. And now we no longer have cabled poles for that use. Well, the pole itself still looks the same. It's still a telescoping tubes that fit into each other and have locking mechanisms. But as materials advance, we've gone from heavy aluminum to lighter carbon fiber, and there are even lighter materials that are becoming available to us now. Graphene, for example, is a much lighter, much stronger, and more durable material than even carbon fiber. And tubes are being created right now. So what if you had a much stiffer, stronger, lighter boom pole that was no bigger than a fishing rod, with microphones becoming lighter and our transmitters becoming lighter at the top end of the pole? All it would take is a counterweight at the bottom end of the pole to even things out. And now you would have the lightest pole possible, because no longer do you have a cable running down inside or outside of the pole, and everything is done. All of the adjustments are done on the mic end. So simple. As materials advance, booms will become lighter and easier to use. Articulation is also possible. We've seen articulating boom poles themselves, in that the pole has joints and you can pivot at the joints of the boom. But we haven't really seen the ability to articulate the mic itself outside of a Fisher boom on a platform and a dolly. So the ability to articulate, particularly in and out, since we can always twist the boom to get left and right, but to go in and out and be able to move that mic with just a thin wire, particularly since we don't have any need for giant thick cables now going down the pole, we can and will be able to move our mics a lot more independently in the future. So this is my challenge to the boom pole manufacturers, to take a step back and rethink the boom entirely and see how can we improve it using what we have today and using what we will have tomorrow. And that brings us to microphones themselves. Microphones have made leaps and bounds, and we have just a plethora of options now. Specialty mics for all sorts of tasks, all sorts of use cases. Right now, though, in production world, we often go by one microphone to one source. But the option to have one microphone picking up many sources and isolating those sources is happening. It's happening in conference rooms across corporate America now. And it's starting to happen in theater as well, where we can isolate voices, isolate sources using one microphone. Now, whether that's through beamforming or machine learning or AI responses, not, we won't know until those microphones are built, but those options are all there. We have people currently using microphones not just to record the voices of the talent or the sources of whatever audio we're recording on set, but people have been using impulse response measurements to help out in post. Now, these things are all to help isolate sounds, help get the most natural sounds, pick out frequencies. It's all about that signal to noise ratio, right? So what we can look at in the future is specialty microphones, more microphones in more places, being able to pinpoint audio. We've all dreamt of being able to zoom in on a sound, like the way a camera lens can zoom and focus. Well, machine learning is doing that now. We've even seen it in some consumer products where Adobe has the ability to analyze voices and analyze frequencies and sound sources. So as the consumer market pushes this technology forward, it's going to, I don't want to say trickle down, but it's going to shift over to us as well. So even microphones are going to adapt and change, and the way we use them is going to change over the next 10, 20, 30 years. Okay, wireless transmitters. This has been this is one we all have fun with right now, right? Everybody has their camp of favorite brands and the reasons why they pick their favorite wireless transmitters, whether it's for a boom or for talent, or for plant mics or what have you. But in the future, we are going to look at being able to pack more channels. This is the very near future, being able to pack more channels into a tighter space. With the advent of digital radios, we have seen this happening already, right? We've seen companies offering a high density mode. And this is, again, in its infancy. Companies are only in the past decade have been exploring packing these signals into a tighter space, whereas we had much fatter signals in the analog world. Now being able to pack those in and being able to fit 10, 20 channels in a 1 megahertz span, that's happening now. And it's only going to become better as we have wideband software-defined radio. So whereas our hardware has been defining the characteristics of our modulation, of our transmission for years now, we're at the precipice of having it software controlled, where everything is able to be updated with firmware updates and filters and blocks and bands, and however you want to call getting multi-channel transmission into smaller spaces. It's all going to be software defined. It's all going to be able to change with the click of a button. Here's the biggest shift that I think is going to happen. And this is not in the near future. This one is a ways off, but TDMA versus FDMA. Currently, we have frequency diversity modulation. What's pictured here is a company called Alteros that is actually defunct. They were a subdivision of Audio-Technica. But this Alteros, what you're looking at is a transmitter belt pack and a receiver. And all of these worked on the same frequency. This is TDMA, time. So they all work on the same exact frequency, and it's just through nano pulses that we're able to distinguish one transmitter from the next. This particular device worked on 6 gigahertz, and the little square antenna up in the top corner, that's like an antenna / receiver, had to be line of sight, and you would have many of them placed around set. So the idea is you're using one frequency. Time determines which transmitter is sending which sound. Our cell phones work like this right now, right? We know that T-Mobile and all just took away our 600 megahertz band recently. And they're packing millions of cell phones onto a few frequencies. How are they doing that? It's TDMA. So right now, where every transmitter we have has to be set to an individual frequency, in the future, we'll be able to set those transmitters all to the same frequency and be able to still be able to distinguish one transmitter from the next. And that is also going to happen as we improve our digital RF topologies, meaning digital RF is not one flavor, one size fits all. You all know that every manufacturer has their own modulation and decryption and encryption schemes. But there are ways to improve upon this now. Some manufacturers offer different digital modulation schemes within their current systems, knowing that there are trade-offs. Well, as those trade-offs become further refined, there's going to be less disadvantages and more advantages. So wireless transmitters, as we know them, size has obviously gotten a lot smaller with trade-offs. The move from analog to digital, hybrid to fully digital, all offers pros and cons and unique trade-offs, but all of it is much improved. We have so much better fidelity and range and reliability now than we ever have before. Daniel Powell says fully flexible RF. Yeah, this is basically what companies have been moving towards lately, and the push is only beginning now. Now, one fun note, I stole this right off of Shore's website, but I just thought that this was a cool note in that the first wireless microphone that they made, the Vagabond, worked in the 2 megahertz FM band, and it could last for up to 30 hours on its batteries. So I just thought that that was a cool little tidbit, and how our needs have improved, and a lot of it is based off of battery life too. So lavalier mics. This is actually pictured as one of the first, if not the first, I'm not sure, the AKG mic lav that would hang around a talent's neck. Lavalier, obviously the term lavalier coming from the jewelry industry, but now we use it to mean, hidden body-worn microphones. But even these can change. We've seen them get smaller and smaller recently and become more waterproof and more rugged. And we've seen companies demonstrate cables made out of Kevlar that can be run over by a tractor or whatever crazy stunts they pull. But we can improve these too. So multiple capsules to extend dynamic range. We're extending dynamic range now in our recorders and in our wireless. We have Neverclip and other multi A to D converters in our recorders and in our transmitters, but we're now using multiple capsules. Like Shure has started this with their Twinplex series, and other manufacturers are sure to follow as the capsule continues to evolve. Now, obviously, we can't get around the physical limitations, the size of the diaphragm, the sensitivity of a microphone. It's always limited to the capacitor and frequency response, but we can extend that using multiple small capsules in small lavaliers. which is going to be fun for all of us, because as we've seen with, the advent of 24-bit recording, 24-bit integer recording, and 32-bit floating point files, where we can extend our dynamic range and we can essentially eliminate gain control. We'll be able to do that now closer to the mic element at the head. True wireless lavs is something, maybe this is a pipe dream, but parts of it I think are a lot closer than we even realize. Right now we run a lav down somebody's shirt, dress, pants, whatever, and plug it into the transmitter. But we're not far away from not having to do that at all. There are even Bluetooth transmitters now that are no larger than a fingernail, that have good enough fidelity, long enough range to be able to have a small little dongle on the opposite end of a cable. So just using this USB-C cable as an example, where you have your lav element, the microphone element at the top, rather than a long cable, having a small dongle with a transmitter on it and the receiver plugged into your actual cast body pack transmitter. So it's basically a short range hop from the lav down to the ankle or the back, and then from there to the sound mixer. That's possible now with batteries that last all day. And eventually that's going to even be, that's going to be unnecessary too, as our transmitters will change and they might not have to wear a body worn pack. It can just hop to another pack somewhere nearby locally and then transmit out from there. So like, these things are obviously going to happen. It's just a matter of when, not if. And the technology is there now. I just read about a breakthrough where someone has made a Bluetooth transmitter, not just the chip, but an entire transmitter that is 2 millimeters wide, 2 millimeters. Now, I don't know if the latency is there yet or the transmission power is there yet for something like that, but it's happening. It's happening. As we have this consumer push, it's all going to come back to us, right? Economies of scale. Our companies, well, we're a relatively small market, so our companies that cater to us can't invest billions of dollars in R&D, but as cell phones evolve and consumer products evolve, it all comes back to us. And right now, lavalier mics, they're analog, right? But we've had this push towards digital microphones in general. We've seen digital boom mics available, and we're starting to get the digital component closer to the capsule. We had digital recorders, but analog transmitters. Now we have digital transmitters. So that A to D conversion is happening closer to the mouth. There's obviously always going to be an A to D conversion, because what we are saying are just analog. That's analog waves. So there has to be a conversion somewhere, but it's all bringing that conversion closer and closer to the mouth. So as it evolves and brings us closer to the element, whether it's in the element itself or just below it, that's going to happen as our current requirements and our capabilities improve there. Cabling is fun. I talked a lot about this in the audio supervisor intro to reality seminar, how cabling has evolved, and we've gone from single channel point-to-point cables to analog mults to digital point-to-point snakes, and now one-to-many audio over Ethernet Dante and other capabilities. That this has evolved a lot in the past 20 years, and it's going to continue. I think we are going to see the death of the traditional XLR cable. Now, not in its entirety, but as it pertains to us, because we've had even the TA3 connector, which uses the same 3-wire, same standard wiring pinout as an XLR, but in a smaller package there. We've had that for decades now. And there's no longer a reason to be wed to the XLR format. So other formats are coming. We have been using XLR itself, not just to go point to point, but XLR is, capable of bidirectional audio. We've seen it in the comms world, and PLs have been using it for decades too. So knowing we have the ability to send audio in 2 directions via traditional copper, again, there's just no more reason to move forward with XLR. So other cabling standards, smaller standards, and more multi-directional is here, and it's becoming more ubiquitous. Now, we already have Dante and AES67 and other AOIP, audio over internet protocol, and audio over Ethernet. And it's happening through wired pipes only because we're limited by the bandwidth of the actual wireless pipe right now. But we can do Dante wirelessly. They have the capability to do it now. So to be able to send 64, 128 channels through the air, this is happening much sooner than later. The only thing that limits it is latency. And while there's always inherent latency, and there's latency within the Dante system itself, but you can get it down to within nanoseconds, this is being improved, and this is going to help us send our audio, deliver our audio across the set and in places we don't even know about yet right now. But this is all happening, whether it's through proprietary or open source protocols. This is happening. And this brings us to batteries. There's really only one thing that needs to be said about this. Batteries are what limit us now. And they're also our biggest opportunity in the future. Because improved batteries are the holy grail of technology right now. There are companies spending literally trillions of dollars together for enhancing the electric vehicle space, the cell phone space, consumer products. Because all of these advancements are happening, it's going to affect us greatly. We have seen a shift recently within our transmitters from, single cell AA batteries to rechargeable lithium packs, much like cameras, portable cameras, DSLRs, point and shoot cameras have done for years. We're seeing that now within our own space. But this is going to be driven. We see it. You can Google now, and literally every month there are articles coming out from MIT and other scientists who have made huge breakthroughs in battery capacity or lifespan or charging rates, where they'll come up with some new technology that this is going to be the future. Well, we read about these all the time, and it's likely that one or more is going to hit, and that lithium ion is not the end all be all of our batteries. So even if we can get to batteries stay the same, but charging rates and methods improve. And therefore, that just increases our lifespan of our tools. Even that would be a huge improvement for us. And so as batteries evolve, that's really going to define our technologies and our enhancements moving forward. This is a famous quote from the commissioner of the U.S. Patent Office, who he said this upon resigning from the patent office, arrogantly thinking that everything that was available to them now was everything that was worth being built in the first place. And it's this kind of thinking that leaves people and companies behind, and us as sound professionals behind as well. So I take it upon myself, and I encourage everybody else to always question why we do things the way we do on set, to look at our tools and our processes from a bird's eye view and say, why is this the thing that we use today? Why is this the best technology and the best use of my time? Are there ways to improve upon this? And whatever it is, if there are ways to do it, do it. So we don't wed ourselves to the days of yore and the technology of old. And we can advance and move further in our careers and in our jobs and improve every day. And at the end of the job, we can say, I did better today than I did yesterday. So I hope you all got something out of this. This was a fun exercise for me in talking with people, talking with, again, Electrosonics, Zaxcom, and Sound Devices, and all of you to rethink our tools. I love it. I love talking this stuff out. We're going to stick around here so we can talk about it amongst ourselves. But even afterwards, I invite all of you to contact me at any time to talk more and just have fun with all of this, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to grow as professionals, and we're here to have fun. So I'm going to invite you all to stick around for the discussion right now. I'm also going to invite you all to check out haltertechnical.com to register for the next events coming up. And we will see everybody on the YouTube channel again next time. So thank you. And here we go. We will open it up to discussion.